Joining me now is Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Governor, the Minnesota legislature has adjourned without passing any police reform at all, mirroring the same in Washington. I'm looking at the fact that the Democratic-controlled Minnesota House passed some legislation, but it was not taken up in the Senate. Are we seeing this all over the country, this partisan divide, because people want to see laws change? We've marched, we've rallied, we're continuing. There'll be a very large peaceful rally tonight. What is it that we need to do to get laws passed to address an issue that begs of it being addressed?
You said it. There's going to be a lot of folks gathering. The Floyd family is going to be speaking, and Minnesota activists. We watched a year ago as George Floyd's humanity was taken in front of the world, and it's forcing Minnesota to have these hard conversations. We know that some of these things are not unreasonable at all. No-knock warrants. We saw Daunte Wright be killed for an air freshener or tabs, right as we were expecting to get a little bit of justice in the Chauvin trial. So these pieces of legislation that have been authored mostly by the people of color and Indigenous caucus that are right in line with what Minnesotans want to see. They want to see accountability. They want to make sure that the situations of George Floyd and Daunte Wright aren't done again. And they brought them forward. They followed the process only to see them stymied. So I will call them back into a special session here in June. We've got a budget that's centered in equity. We have a lot of people that COVID took disproportionate impact on. We need to move money into those communities, and we need to do it hand in hand with police reform. So our expectations is that they will do this.
Now, I saw you at the Wright funeral, where I gave a eulogy, and you talked about that there. Can we expect that when Chauvin, who was convicted for the murder of George Floyd, is sentenced, if there is a strong sentence, and many of us feel that the time should equal the crime, if there is a strong sentence, do you think that will send a strong message to those in law enforcement that break the law? And we're not accusing all law enforcement of being lawbreakers, but to those that do, how important is a sentence?
Well, it's important, and I know there were extenuating circumstances. The judge ruled on those. As you know, we have what I would consider the best legal team led by Keith Ellison in the nation, and that's their expectation. But I think that's just a beginning. What we know is that this was an anomaly. We had a white police officer convicted of killing a black man. That's the first time we've ever had a trial in Minnesota on it. So I think the idea that
Let me push you there. It's the first time in the history of Minnesota we've seen a white police officer convicted of killing a black.
Correct.
And you've had other police killings.
Oh, yes. Just like, yes, of course. And so what I'm hearing from some folks who say, well, this proves that the system works. That's all we need to do. There wasn't a black Minnesotan that I talked to that thought he was going to be convicted. And they said that because history shows them that. So these changes that we need to make before we ever get to that point of having to go to trial, Daunte Wright shouldn't have been in a situation where he was getting arrested or it escalated into that situation. Same with George Floyd. Same with you go right down the line. So this legislation needs to happen, and that's the feeling. So I think a strong sentence will be, I think, what field justice will be in that case, but it's not the broader changes that need to happen. We need to stop it before it gets to that point.
And making one trial where the verdict was more than most expected does not mean the system has been corrected. A broke clock is right twice a day.
That's right.
We need it more than one time, and we need the laws changed.
That's correct.
And the laws addressed.
Yeah, and I think you're going to hear from Senator Smith, strong champions for the George Floyd Act federally. We need the federal government to act. Minnesota can do what we can do, but the federal law, as you well know, make sure that we're going to have states that are going to have unequal treatment of this. We in Minnesota need to be the example for the rest of the country. We need to pass these laws. We need to make sure we hold folks accountable, but we need federal partners to get that piece done.
You deployed Minnesota National Guard several times over the last year. How do you weigh a decision like that when we've seen law enforcement, including the National Guard, escalate otherwise peaceful protests across the country.
Yeah, and just to be clear, these are folks exercising their First Amendment rights, and to also be very clear, we wouldn't be having the reforms we had without those voices out there. We saw after George Floyd's murder, there were those, the small numbers that took advantage of peaceful protests and burned buildings, looted. They were a small number. We couldn't allow that to happen, and for me, it's trying to balance that out. And I'll be the first to tell you, Reverend, we've got to do better. We can't catch up people who are either out there peacefully protesting or journalists who get caught in the middle of this. And that's why our post board, our standards board for police officers, is going to come up with a model policy. We're internally looking at, did we have officers that used excessive force in these protests? Because we have to make sure that we want to create the space necessary for people to peacefully protest. And that's where I feel that the Guard can do their best without the burning that happens and those that want to cause mayhem.
And as you know, I was here with the family in and out a lot. And the overwhelming, just for the record, the overwhelming majority of the protests in Minnesota were very peaceful.
That's correct.
And the overwhelming majority of those were calling for peaceful protests.
That's exactly right.
So this effort by some to criminalize all the protesters is an absolute erroneous
and there'll
claim.
be those that will take advantage of it. And to be very clear, we've caught them and prosecuted those. Those that came to commit arson, they weren't there about George Floyd. They weren't there for justice. They were there to cause that. That was a small percentage of them. We have to figure out how do we strike that proper balance to create safety amongst folks who are out there, because it is the folks in the streets that are bringing change in the State House. It is the folks in the street that are keeping the pressure up to make a difference. And for us to not allow them a safe place to do that will make it more difficult to change the laws.
All right, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Reverend.